This morning, it has been 1 year since a Bronx teenager we've come to know as Junior was savagely murdered. His death has come to symbolize the ruthlessness of gang violence. I'll be joined by Mary Murphy. Plus, Mayor de Blasio picks a new guy to head the city's beleaguered public housing. Monica Morales talks to him as NYCHA residents say he's the wrong guy for the job.
Now, from 42nd and 2nd, this is Pix 11 News Close-Up with Marvin Scott.
Good morning. We begin with the controversial naming of a new head for the city's troubled public housing. After a 5-month national search, Mayor de Blasio has tapped Gregory Russ as the new boss of NYCHA. He currently runs the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority, an agency that oversees 6,300 housing units compared to 175,000 units here. And he'll have jurisdiction over them in the city. NYCHA's 400,000 residents is almost comparable to the entire population of the city of Minneapolis. With a salary of $400,000, Russ will receive the highest paid. He will be the highest paid city employee. To learn more about the man who will deal with the city's public housing crisis, we sent Monica Morales to Minneapolis to meet him.
Why do you think the mayor chose you? What do you think won his heart?
Well, for one thing, I met him and we did kind of hit it off. So.
Gregory Russ says there was an instant connection between him and Mayor Bill de Blasio. Russ is the new NYCHA CEO starting in mid-August. Pix 11 toured Minneapolis Public Housing with him Thursday. It looks really good. Well kept.
Yeah, most of the properties look like this. Most of our issues are inside the cookie.
This is what it looks like inside. The elevators and hallways look clean and new. There are only 42 high-rises here in Minneapolis. That's just over 6,000 apartments, while NYCHA has 175,000 apartments. Are you really ready for this job, Mr. Russ?
Yeah, I think as much as you can be ready for any new position. I've spent a lot of time and I've seen a lot of housing.
But not in New York City.
No, I realize that, but...
Wait till you see it. Russ is a big supporter of a program called RAD, Rental Assistance Demonstration, which turns over management and repairs of public housing to private developers. The ownership stays in public hands. Some have called you the czar of privatization, so people aren't losing their homes.
No, that didn't happen.
So you can say to our families on camera, this is on camera,
I realize that.
They will not lose their homes.
No one's going to lose their homes.
No one's going to be displaced. Russ admits he's never actually seen the inside of any NYCHA buildings. Several city leaders have expressed concern Wednesday Russ would be a part-time CEO, traveling to Minneapolis on the weekends. Are you moving to New York City?
Yeah, I'm going to be moving, yes.
Can you commit to being a full-time CEO?
Oh, yeah.
His salary is $402,000 a year. Are you worth that kind of money? $1 a resident? Are you worth that much?
I hadn't thought of it that way. I'm coming. I've got the arrangement I've got. Can I produce?
Some wonder how Russ can produce. With severe money and management problems, NYCHA right now is in need of over $30 billion in investment. So you're going to fix NYCHA?
I'm going to give it a try. Let's put it that way.
Your best shot.
Best shot.
We're watching.
Hit me with your best shot.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
Oh, I will.
And Monica certainly will give him the best shot. And thanks to Monica for that report. You know, I'm pleased now to be joined by Bronx Councilman Ritchie Torres. He heads the Oversight and Investigations Committee. Carmen Quinones is the tenant president of Frederick Douglass Houses, and Cynthia Tibbs, the tenant president of West Side Urban Renewal Brownstones. Thanks for coming in. Now, Gregory Russ, he appears to have a very impressive background, some almost 3 decades of service in public housing. Why are you so skeptical?
Because he's not New York. New York is big. He has only 175,000 residents. Hello, we have 400,000 strong here, and he has no experience. And just by saying him and Mayor de Blasio hit it off, send off signals to me. So this guy is not ready for this job, and he definitely is not ready for New York.
You said to me the other day, you don't need on-the-job training in New York, but
and
he
that's
seems
what
to have
it
a
would
good
be
start, at least in Minneapolis.
On-the-job training, and then he wants us to ship him back and forth. You know, all this money that they're spending, why aren't they fixing the problems that we have? All this money going around. Y'all can find money for all of this. Why aren't they fixing the problems that the residents are facing? Why are you spending money on this? You know, I'm on TV. Why?
I know Councilman Torres takes issue with that as well.
I do. There are 330 developments in NYCHA. The Minneapolis Public Housing Authority is the size of one of those developments. So there's no evidence that he's qualified to manage the New York City Housing Authority. When you're the chair of NYCHA, you're managing a workforce of 11,000 employees. You're managing a housing stock that houses 500,000 New Yorkers, which is the size of the city of Boston. So to be the chairperson of NYCHA is to be the mayor of a city, and you have to be on the ground, on call, 24/7. Right? Leaders like Carmen work 24/7. They have every right to expect their chairperson to be 24/7. The notion of reducing the NYCHA chairperson to a part-time gig is an insult to the residents of public housing.
Was City Council, anyone on the council, consulted?
We have no role in it. So it was a decision that was made by the U.S. Attorney, HUD, and Mayor de Blasio. And just like the city has been poorly served by a part-time mayor, the New York City Housing Authority is going to be poorly served by a part-time chairperson.
And what's your concern, Cynthia?
We're not only being bamboozled or conned by this part-time man, but he's coming with us with unclean hands. Exactly. This is a man that in 2017 rightfully hired a NYCHA employee that was working in the RAD project in Ocean Bay to consult in Minneapolis at $375 an hour. Okay, so this person was not only getting paid by NYCHA, but bragging about how she was getting paid by him. And then she got fined for conflict of interest, $9,500, but that's a drop in the bucket when you're getting paid as much as you are.
Now you talk about RAD, and that stands for Rental Assistance Demonstration.
Right.
Basically, it's his belief, and he's an advocate of turning over management and repair services to private outsourcing that.
Well, in Minneapolis, he turns it over to his family because Teals and Talley is owned by his father-in-law.
All right, Councilman, but the idea that he's going to commute, he said to Monica he is going to move to New York, and part of his deal is $15,000 moving expense. He says he's moving here, but the word is he's going to be commuting every week.
That's unacceptable. You have to be on the ground, learning the operations of the agency, developing relationships with tenant leaders. You are the mayor of a large city. To be the chairperson of NYCHA is to be the mayor of a large city. You have to be available on a 24-hour basis. It's demoralizing for employees to think that we're going to pay Gregory Russ more money than previous chairs to do less work than previous chairs. In what universe does that make sense?
$1 a resident? Is that all that we're worth? Is $1? Because he's getting paid $1 per resident. That's what he's getting paid.
Now, you said tenants, the residents of NYCHA. You're upset, as you told me when we spoke the other day, that you were not consulted. No one at City Council had authority.
No one was consulted, Marv, no one. The residents are the last to be consulted in anything and everything. And this mayor has been missing in action. And I believe I told you the last time, Ben Carson needs to go back to the hospital and do surgery because he is also missing in action. These people gotta go. They know nothing about New York City Housing Authority. They know nothing about the residents in New York City Housing Authority. We know what's going on. You got to come to us.
Okay, want to continue this? Find out, saying you had major problems. You need over $30 billion to make the repairs and renovations. We'll continue our discussion right after this break. Stay with us. Back now with Councilman Ritchie Torres, NYCHA residents Cynthia Tibbs and Carmen Quinones. Now we're talking about the new hire for NYCHA. He has, and from what I read in his background, he's worked with low-income families through public and subsidized housing programs. He's credited with starting initiatives to provide housing to families experiencing homelessness. And also his mission statement is to provide and deliver quality, well-managed homes to a diverse income population. It seems to be what NYCHA needs.
If that's the case, why did 17,600 people in Chicago get misplaced when he promised them that once they did the renovations of RAD, they would be back in their homes? Till this day, they have not been back in their homes. So he's a liar.
your own feelings.
What recourse? You have any recourse? How long is his contract?
Well, to your earlier question, he serves at the pleasure of the mayor, and he's jointly appointed by HUD, the U.S. Attorney, and the mayor. But it seems like ultimately it was a decision by the mayor, which I disagree with. But not all public housing authorities are equal. Like, there's a difference between running a candy store and running a multi-billion-dollar corporation. There's a difference between running the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority and running a housing authority that houses the population of Boston. There's no evidence that he is qualified to manage a housing stock of 175,000 units, especially one that's in a state of emergency, right? NYCHA continues to fail to properly remediate and inspect lead in thousands of apartments.
Now, that $400,000 salary, I should note that about $175,000 of that's coming from the federal government. So the salary of $400,000, part of that is coming from the federal government.
But dollars spent on an inflated salary are dollars not spent on actual repairs for NYCHA residents. So ultimately, it's coming at the expense of NYCHA residents.
So when he comes here in mid-August, is he going to be greeted with hi or with protest signs?
Well, we're going to do protest sign, and that leads me to what we're about to do. I am going to have a town hall next Friday with my pastor, Pastor Carl Washington, and it's going to actually be at 171 West 140th Street, near Mount Zion, and hopefully we can shut the city down before he even touches ground.
So he may even decide he doesn't want to come through.
He may not want to come after I get through with him.
NYCHA has been under the control of a federal monitor for the past 6 months. Has there been any improvement, have you seen, in all the problems and lacking the heat and the mold and the venom and everything else? Has anything changed?
I must say I've been working very closely with the monitor and his staff, and they have always, anytime that I've needed them, they've been there. We're working on new hoppers in the thing, trying to get rodents, make sure that the rodents are not growing, and how they're hands-on with the at least as far as I know, with the TA presidents that I know.
And Cynthia, how about it in your?
Absolutely, they communicate more than management does with us.
There you go.
They listen to us where management doesn't. They listen to, we have been on the grounds for 30 years running. Okay, born and raised, these are our neighborhoods. It's not just a development, it's the entire neighborhood that we interact with, whether you're in public housing or not. So when it comes to the monitor, they have listened to all of our needs.
So you've seen some improvement?
Yes,
yes. Yes.
Now, the mayor promised that he was going to replace boilers, I think, last July, after you had that terrible winter where you had no heat and hot water. Has that been accomplished?
The mayor, as you know, the mayor's running for president.
So that's his main concern now.
So the heat is elsewhere.
Heat is here and there. Just before I got here, 2 of my elevators are out. My front door was broken. Just because we don't have heat doesn't mean we need hot water. So we still have issues.
Now, Councilman, you had the Oversight Investigations Committee. Is there anything that you are planning that once Gregory Russ gets here to look into his background and his qualifications, you're going to put heat on him?
We're going to hold him accountable. That's my job. I'm not here to be his best friend. I'm here to hold him accountable for improving living conditions in public housing. And even though I have serious doubts about Mr. Russ, I want to be pleasantly surprised. If he turns out to be better than we expect, then that's the outcome that I'm hoping for. But NYCHA is so complicated that it's impossible to do that job well if you're commuting between Minneapolis and New York City. He is setting himself up for failure, but more importantly, he's setting the residents of public housing up for failure. They're the ones who pay the price ultimately.
Yes.
Well, as he said, he'll retire if it doesn't go well. With a smile.
Not only that, for $400,000 a year, to make a statement to Monica that there are capable top executives that can handle emergencies if one should arise on the weekend is unacceptable. He's not taking us serious at all.
Now, that salary is double what any previous CEO at NYCHA has received.
It's more than the governor makes.
The governor makes. I mean, hello.
More than the president of the United States.
Exactly.
How do you spend so much money on an individual? Number one, he's not from New York City. That's number one.
Never
he don't live here.
His foot in an apartment.
He's not a New Yorker.
Okay, Councilman Torres says, all right, we're going to hold him accountable, but you know something, we're going to give him a shot. Want to give him a chance?
I am not.
Give him a couple of weeks.
I'm
see
not.
what he does?
Let me tell you something.
No.
I run a lot of agencies myself, and I don't believe on the job training. I just don't believe in that. And New York City Housing Authority is too critical to have someone just come and try to make it better. We need to make it better. There are children suffering. There are residents suffering every day. I don't get a moment's peace, okay? Every day. Just getting here was a task for me. 2 elevators out. My doors are broken. Give me a break. I'm doing their job. They need to give me that money.
Okay. Well, we'll find out what happens when Greg Russ gets here.
And the two of them work 24/7 and get paid nothing.
Nothing.
If you're going to
Yeah.
collect a
Not a dime.
$400,000 salary, then you should be on call 24/7. Period.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, Greg Russ gets here. He's on the job mid-August. We'll see what happens. We'll have you guys back. Give us
Thank
an
you.
assessment in a couple of months.
Marv, thanks.
Councilman
Of
Torres,
course.
Cynthia,
Pleasure.
Carmen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break. We come back. We're going to talk about a sad anniversary. It's 1 year since Junior was brutally murdered. We'll be right back.
My constituent.
It was 1 year ago this past week that we all were stunned in disbelief that a terrified 15-year-old boy was dragged from a Bronx bodega and murdered by a ruthless gang. Lisandro Jr. Guzman Feliz was mistaken as a member of a rival gang. My colleague Mary Murphy has covered the story extensively this past year and takes a look back.
Everybody in the world is being touched by Junior.
That young boy was holding onto that door. He ran back in for help and was asking for help, and nobody helped him.
Lisandro Jr. Guzman Feliz became everybody's son.
Nah, in my planet you don't rap.
After people across the globe watched horrified as the 15-year-old's murder played over and over on social media.
That was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Justice for Junior!
The suspects who were quickly rounded up belonged to the Trinitarios, a Dominican-American gang that flashed guns and smoked with hookahs. Junior missed his junior year of high school.
We know what he was up to here, and it was nothing but positive things.
The negatives of gang life reinforced by the roundup of 15 suspects in his murder.
It's a kind of sort of a wake-up call that it's not as glamorous or as fun as maybe some people make it out to be.
The street where Junior sustained his lethal injuries was renamed in his honor on his mother's birthday.
What do you miss most about Junior?
Everything, everything, everything. Junior was my baby. We all always together, all the time.
He was very much like you, it seems.
Thank you. Yeah, people say that.
Junior's father and mother tried to stay stoic during the trial when defense attorneys attempted to tarnish his memory. Mom would post a Scholastic Award on Instagram to defend him.
That's my son. If I don't stand up, who's going to be there?
We asked Felice about the overwhelming affection women have shown her.
Probably they are mother, they are her son, you know.
On Mother's Day, an anonymous mourner left a music box at Junior's grave for his mom in the late teens' behalf.
Heartbreaking, it really is. And Mary joins me now. You cover this story extensively. You know, we get to cover stories, but some of them really touch us. And this really had to hit you emotionally over this past year.
You know, I was overwhelmed by the response to the story. Thousands of people started following me, a lot of women, Latino women, and they were very moved by Junior. They felt he could have been their son. They really identified with the mother's pain, Leandra's pain, and it's just been remarkable, the overwhelming response to this story.
Now, you got close to the family. We saw in this piece you spoke to the mother, and she shared so much with you. I mean, this was a boy with so much promise in his life. He wanted to be a cop.
Yeah, he told his mother at the age of 5 he wanted to be a police detective. And when this first happened, part of the reason that the story escalated to the attention that it got was that the police department itself was quoted as feeling so badly because Junior had been in that program. He wore the jacket with the police patch. And that drove the story, but so did what was happening out on the streets. It forced us, not only the police, it forced communities, it forced all of us to confront gang violence.
Has anything changed as a result of it in the Bronx, the Trinitarios gang?
Yeah, on the 1-year anniversary, I interviewed the assistant chief, Jason Wilcox, who used to be the commander of all Bronx detectives. He's now working at headquarters. He said this year, murders are down 43% in the Bronx. And
gang-related?
All murders. And shootings are down 11%. Overall crime is down 7%. It's sort of ahead of other boroughs in the city, the reduction in crime.
Now, that surveillance video was just so disturbing. It went viral. We saw the boy with eyes widened as he was trying to escape from that gang. And it kind of aroused the consciousness of not only people in this country, but all over the world of the ruthlessness of the gangs.
Well, I've told this story over and over again. I have received messages from South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Paris, the Netherlands, because of this story. A lot of people were disturbed not only by the ruthlessness of the gang and what it did, but also by the response inside the bodega. You know, Junior, he tried to hide. There was a partition that was blocking the gang from him, and then somehow it got opened, and the gang got at him and dragged him out. The dragging video, probably one of the worst things you could see. He's trying to hold on to the ATM machine, trying to hold on to the door jamb right before the sidewalk. But what was really disturbing was he went back in a second time with this lethal wound in his neck, and he slumped over the counter. And there were several people in the bodega, but one of them was a customer, an elderly man, and he's holding his potato chips in his hand and his Coke.
Doing nothing.
Waving at Junior to leave, go up the block. St. Barnabas Hospital was a block away, and Junior's mother works at that hospital to this very day in the intensive care unit. That's the place where her son was pronounced dead.
And he was trying to get there, and he
yeah, and I've read that part of the reason that he died was because he ran and expended that energy, and that caused him to bleed out faster. Yesterday, as I was on my way to the Memorial March, I passed the security booth at the hospital, and it was chilling because that's where Junior collapsed, right in front of that booth, right near the emergency room.
Now, the word chilling is really an understatement about that video. That when you talk to the man who formerly was the head of detectives in the Bronx, he said he's still shaken by that.
Yeah, he has a teenage son, and he said, we felt his terror. You saw Junior's eyes. You saw him looking up at the people that murdered him. We felt his terror. We felt his fear.
Now, you were in the court where 5 members of the Trinitarios gang, they were convicted of murder. Now, there are still trials ahead. There were a total of, what, 15?
Well, a total of 15 people actually were technically rounded up, but one of them very quickly became a cooperating witness. So we always heard about the 14. And then one of those 14 also made a deal and was the star witness at this first trial. So there are 8 guys left charged with murder in the second degree. They were the guys who were part of the chase. They were in the cars. They were part of the conspiracy, maybe a little bit of the planning to hunt for rivals. It doesn't seem like the judge or the prosecutor wants to go through a whole series of new trials because there were 5 in the first case. The judge doesn't want to have another case with all those defendants at the same time. So he asked in court on Monday if there might be any discussion of possible plea deals. The prosecutor said, we haven't offered any formal deals, but we're open to discussion to manslaughter in the first degree. That is still a serious charge. Usually the maximum penalty would be 25 years. I don't think anyone would plead guilty to something that would give them 25 years. If you're going to plead guilty, you want a little bit of a bargain. I think the range could be anywhere from 12 to 25 years, typically for that kind of a charge or conviction.
Now, the first 5 who were convicted, they convicted of murder. Their sentencing is coming up.
Their sentencing is July 16th. They were convicted of murder in the first degree. They had the weapons, and what the prosecutor argued was that there was an element of torture, and that's why they were able to get that conviction of first-degree murder.
Mary, excellent reporting on a very sad story. Thank you very much, and you'll be covering the trial that's coming up.
Thanks, Marvin.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay.
And that'll do it for our program for this week. If you have any comments or wish to see this broadcast again, log on to our website at pix11.com/newscloseup. I'm Marvin Scott. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everyone.